This February, after a hiatus of 4 months without studying, I took the Step 1 self-assessment. This is how I got 255 on the Amboss self-assessment for Step 1 without studying for 4 months. This video will give you 3 tools to score high in simulations as well as the real exam. The first tool is to have a strategy for going through the block. The gold rule is to do what works best for you. For instance, for me, having chunks of 10 questions worked best. This meant that one block was made up of 4 chunks of 10 questions, each having 12 to 15 minutes allocated. After each chunk, I took a pause of 1 to 2 minutes. This brief pause helped me enjoy the process as well as recover a little bit from the previous 10 questions. A useful tool is mindful breathing. This helps you refocus on the next 10 questions. Lastly, being aware of one's first reaction to the question is extremely important to avoid preventable errors. For instance, in the question stem you see for the first time the term drepanocytes, and the question asks you what is the best long-term treatment for a patient with this blood smear. Since it is the first time you encounter this term, you are afraid of not knowing how to answer. Instead of reacting to the question and making an educated guess, I let the question on the back burner and I return to it later. This gives me plenty of time to cool down and re-engage with a new perspective on the question. The second tool in your toolbox is to categorize questions. When going through the block of the 40 questions, having a mental framework for approaching each question is the key for your success. The first category is represented by easy questions that can be answered on a whim. This category benefits you by letting you accrue time to spend it later on much more difficult questions. One caveat is the anchoring bias. This means that after reading the question and the last sentence, you jump directly to the answer. This might cause undesired errors. Even if the question is trivial, consider at least 2 choices before making a decision. The second category is represented by solvable questions. These are questions to which the diagnosis is not yet fully fledged or that you think the answer is wrong. These questions benefit from a new perspective, therefore avoid making an educated guess. Rather, flag them and go through the easy questions of the 10 question block. While working on other questions, your mind will find different ways to solve this question that was on the back burner
using the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zeigarnik effect states that unfinished or interrupted tasks are better remembered than the completed tasks. They benefit from the fact that in the working memory they will continue to run in the background. When you return to the question, not only that you'll have a new perspective, but you will already have the answer to the question. The third category are the unsolvable or experimental questions. We all know that up to 20% of the questions in the USMLEs are experimental. Even with this percentage, there might be other questions that are unsolvable. For these questions, instead of flagging them as for the solvable questions, you can make an educated guess. There are 2 questions that can help guide you to the right answer. What is the most common pathology or diagnosis for this patient's demographic and presentation? The second question is represented by what concept or information would the test makers want to test with this question? With the advent of step 1 becoming pass-fail, step 2CK is more important than ever. You can get the chance to use the techniques from this video with the step 2CK Amboss self-assessment week that starts on 5th March. The link is in the description below. The third tool in your toolbox is represented by breaks. Not only that breaks between the blocks are an opportunity to relax, but also to prepare for the next block. Here are some activities that can help you get the most out of your breaks. Hydration. It was proven that dehydration, even for 1%, can alter cognitive performance. Namely, the research has shown that it reduces both alertness and ability to concentrate. There are 2 ways to hydrate. Hydrate during the break with enough water to feel satisfied. This will prevent overdrinking and thus needing to go to the bathroom during the block. Another way is to drink a little bit more water. This will lead to overdistension of the bladder during the block. It was shown that overdistension of the bladder leads to sympathetic stimulation. It can be useful during the last blocks when your alertness decreases. A second way to spend this break is by having a snack. More precisely, you can use a low glycemic snack that is either high in fiber or that is full of protein and lipids. The reason why we avoid high glycemic index food is because it will lead to an insulin spike followed by a crash during your next block. Some low glycemic index snacks are represented by fruit, which is high in fiber, slowing down the absorption of the carbohydrates, or protein bars, which are rich in protein and lipids and will keep you satiated for longer. A third way to spend the break is to get yourself moving. Sitting down too much time will lead to a stagnating mind. Going to the bathroom or to have a snack will help you move around and re-energize your body. A fourth way to spend your break is to meditate. Especially during the later blocks, you will feel fuzzy and unable to concentrate. Meditation brings clarity to your mind. Before the exam, you can practice on a daily basis, thus enhancing your ability to create clarity. The last way to spend your break is to use caffeine. The use of caffeine should be implemented sparingly. Caffeine also induces a sympathetic stimulation. Thus, it can be used towards the last blocks when your alertness decreases. If you liked this video and want to see more USMLE related content, subscribe to the channel and tune up for our next Step 2CK course.